to be kidding me. Hello. Hello.
The movie opens in a Manhattan gallery, thick with money, crystal, champagne, the low hum of people who have never had to ask the price of anything. A woman moves through the room like she belongs to it, because she does. Her name is Emily Bradford Taylor, and she is the kind of beautiful that makes a room go quiet for a half second when she walks in. She stops in front of a painting, and a man steps beside her. He is lean, paint still under his fingernails. His name is David Shaw, and he is the artist. They do not greet each other the way strangers do. They greet each other the way lovers do, who have agreed in this room to pretend. Emily goes home that night to a penthouse that looks down on the whole city. Her husband is waiting for her. Stephen Taylor is a Wall Street financier, silver-haired, expensively tailored, the kind of man whose smile arrives a second before his eyes do. He tells her to change. There is another party, a more important one, and he wants her on his arm in the dress he picked out. Stephen likes things a certain way, his way. While Emily slips into the dress, she tries to call David from the bedroom phone. The line does not connect. She doesn't know it yet, but very little in her marriage connects the way she thinks it does. At the second party, Stephen moves through the crowd shaking hands, and a colleague pulls him aside. The news is bad. Stephen's positions are bleeding. Whispers are starting on the street that Taylor is over-leveraged, that the empire is hollow. Stephen laughs it off, claps the man on the shoulder, calls it a rumor. But across the room, he watches his wife. And across the room, his wife is talking to the painter she had not expected to see here tonight. Emily and David had arranged this evening. They were supposed to be alone. Now Stephen is here, and the evening belongs to him.
Just relax. He doesn't know who I am, right?
Emily whispers an apology to David. She tried to warn him. The call wouldn't go through. David tells her to act like strangers. It is too late. Stephen is already walking over. Emily, cornered, does the only thing she can. She introduces them. David Shaw, a painter. Very talented. Stephen smiles the smile that arrives before the eyes. He says he would love to see David's work. He has rich friends. He could open doors. He asks Emily, sweetly, to pass along David's number. Stephen Taylor has been reading his wife since she walked into the gallery earlier that night. He already knows. In his office the next morning, Stephen sits behind his desk with the lights low, turning a pen end over end. He looks like a man doing math in his head, and the math is not good. Meanwhile, Emily and David steal an afternoon together. She brings him a gift, something expensive, the way she always does. She is in love. He is well. That is the question, isn't it? His phone buzzes on the table. A text from a number he doesn't recognize. I'd like to meet you. Stephen. Emily's face goes pale. She tells David that Stephen must know. David shrugs it off. The husband was polite at the party. Polite men do not know. David agrees to the meeting. Before he leaves, he turns at the door. If you were so scared, why did you give him my number? Emily says she didn't. She never gave it to him. Stephen has people. Stephen has ways. Stephen finds what he wants.
You're gonna get so upset about it. Why'd you give him my number?
I didn't.
They meet at a bar. Drinks first. The small talk of two men measuring each other. Then David takes Stephen back to his studio, the loft where Emily has spent so many afternoons. Stephen walks the room slowly. He stops in front of a canvas and tilts his head. These are very angry paintings, he says. I can see the anger in them. Then he stops pretending. He tells David he knows about the affair. David tries the only card he has left. He says they love each other. Stephen laughs, a small dry laugh. Love has nothing to do with it. I know who you really are.
What the hell are you saying?
And then Stephen lays it out. He has investigated David Shaw down to the bone. The petty theft as a child, the aliases, the string of wealthy older women in Boston, in Miami, in San Francisco, each one charmed, each one bled, each one left behind when the next mark came along. Everything David has told Emily is a script he's run before. David sits very still. He asks the only question left. What do you want? Stephen names his price. $500,000, one job, kill Emily. David's stomach drops. He asks what happens if he says no. Stephen slides a folder across the table. The last woman. Names, dates, evidence enough to put David away for 30 years. The folder is not a threat. It is a leash. David, trapped, agrees.
You think you got a box big enough to have $100,000 in cash?
I assume you know where I live.
Stephen is a careful man. He plans for the version of the night where everything goes wrong. He writes himself a letter. Inside, photographs of David and Emily together. He mails it to his own office, postmarked and untouchable. If the worst happens, the letter becomes his alibi proof that David was blackmailing him. Proof that any meeting between them was extortion, not conspiracy. Stephen thinks of everything. He thinks of everything except his wife. That night, Emily is out with her closest friend, Raquel. She drinks too much wine and starts to talk. She says Stephen runs her life like he runs a company. She says she feels like a possession on a shelf. She tells Raquel about David. Raquel, older and sharper than Emily wants her to be, asks the only question that matters. Does he know about your money? Emily smiles into her glass. No, David doesn't care about that. He loves me. And there it is, the line that every con man waits to hear his mark say out loud.
In 6 months, you never mentioned
Okay,
money.
David has absolutely no interest in anything.
Is that why you're not wearing your wedding ring? What?
I left it at David's.
When Emily gets home, Stephen is reading by the fire. He mentions, casually, that he met her painter. He's thinking of buying a piece. He watches her face when he says it. She gives him nothing. He gives her nothing back. 2 players, same table. The next day, Emily corners David. Stephen met you. David nods. He smiles. He says Stephen wants to buy a painting. He does not say the rest. He does not say that her husband has hired him to put a knife in her.
You know I love you. I know.
The plan takes shape in Stephen's office. Stephen walks David through every step. There is a service entrance to the penthouse not covered by security cameras. Stephen knows the building inside out. Tonight, Stephen will go to his weekly card game. Before he leaves, he will take Emily's key from her purse and hide it under a section of pipe by the back door. David lets himself in. He waits. When the job is done, he wipes the key, slips it back into Emily's pocket, and goes out the way he came. The story the police get is the oldest story in the city. A burglar broke in. The lady of the house surprised him. Things went bad. No husband, no painter, no affair. A tragedy with no fingerprints. That evening, Emily and David meet for dinner. Halfway through the meal, Stephen appears, all smiles, and invites himself to the table. Emily's wine glass freezes halfway to her mouth. Stephen sits, orders a drink, watches them both. Somewhere between the appetizer and the entree, he tilts his head at her hand. "Where's your wedding ring?" Emily looks down. The ring is on David's nightstand, where she left it that afternoon. She manages something about the jeweler, a loose prong, picking it up tomorrow. Stephen smiles. "And what if you don't get it back tomorrow?" He says it lightly. He says it like a joke. It is not a joke. Stephen drives Emily home. David watches the taillights from the curb. Back in his studio, he stares at a portrait of Emily he's been working on for weeks. The one painting in the loft that isn't angry, and he takes a blade to it. He cuts her face out of the canvas. Later that night, Emily calls him, half whispering from her bathroom. She tells him she can't do this anymore. She is going to tell Stephen the truth tonight, end the marriage, walk out clean. David nearly chokes. "Not tonight," he says. "Wait until tomorrow. Promise me."
Just hold off another day.
I don't know.
I do know. Honey, don't panic. You know?
He doesn't tell her why. She promises. Stephen has prepared for everything, including her. He knows she had wanted to go out that night, so he engineers a reason to stay in. By 10 o'clock, Emily is alone in the penthouse with a glass of wine and a book she isn't reading. Stephen is at his card game with 5 witnesses and a stack of chips. He calls the apartment from the club. The phone rings in the kitchen. Emily doesn't hear it. In the dark of the service hallway, a man in a balaclava waits for the second call. The phone rings again. This time, Emily hears it. She walks to the kitchen and reaches for the receiver. The intruder is on her before her hand touches the phone. She is smaller than him. He is stronger than her. They fight across the kitchen and into the dining room, and what Stephen Taylor and David Shaw have both forgotten, what neither of them ever bothered to learn, is that Emily Bradford Taylor is not the porcelain wife in the magazine pages. She is fighting for her life, and she is winning by inches. Her hand finds the meat thermometer on the counter. She drives it into the side of his neck. He goes down. He does not get up. Stephen comes home an hour later expecting to find his wife dead on the floor and a story to perform for the police. He finds his wife alive in the bedroom, shaking, blood not her own across her dress. The phone in her hand, the operator on the other end. Stephen plays his part. Shock, horror. He rushes to the kitchen and there on the floor is the body, and Stephen crouches over the dead man and does the second fastest thinking of his life. He pats the corpse down. He finds the key he hid under the pipe, and palms it. He slips it into Emily's purse on his way back through the living room. He kicks open the lock on the back door from the inside so it reads as forced entry. By the time the elevator opens for the police, Stephen Taylor is a husband in shock and a robbery has gone tragically wrong. The detective who comes up is named Mohammed Karaman. He is quiet, watchful, the kind of investigator who lets a room talk first. He watches Stephen crouched over the body and asks, mildly, what he was doing. Stephen says he was checking for a pulse. Karaman nods. He files it. Then they pull the balaclava off the dead man, and Stephen's whole face changes for a half second before he can put it back. It is not David Shaw. It is a stranger. Stephen has no idea who is lying on his kitchen floor. Karaman sees the half second. Karaman files that too. At the precinct, Karaman steps out to take a call about his sick son. He speaks in Arabic, low and tender. Emily, sitting in the next chair, answers him in the same language. She asks after the boy. Karaman looks at her, surprised, and something in him decides she is not the kind of woman who hires anyone to do anything. They become, in that small moment, allies who don't yet know it. Emily goes to her mother's house to recover. Before she leaves the penthouse, Stephen kisses her forehead and tells her to rest. Tomorrow, you'll forget all about this.
How could something like this happen?
Gone over 1,000 times myself. The world's gone crazy.
The hairs on her neck rise. She has heard him say that exact sentence before the morning of the attack, over breakfast, in the same soft voice. She doesn't say anything. She gets in the car. She starts thinking. While she is gone, Stephen meets David in a park. He is furious in the controlled way of men who never raise their voices. Who was that? David tells him the truth. He couldn't do it. He couldn't put a knife in her himself, so he subcontracted. He hired a man, gave him the key and the plan, and let the man go in his place. Stephen looks at the trees for a long time. He tells David to keep his mouth shut and disappear.
Hey, Steve, do I keep fucking your wife in the meantime, or what?
At her mother's, Emily decides she is leaving Stephen. The decision is calm. The decision is final. She doesn't know it yet, but she has just become an existential problem for her husband. Stephen's empire is gone. The whispers at the party were not whispered. They were obituary. Every dollar he has is borrowed against dollars he no longer has. Emily's trust fund, $100 million, untouchable by him while she is alive, and divorcing him becomes everything by her death. A widower inherits. A divorced man does not. Emily comes back to the penthouse to pack. Her key doesn't work in the front door. The doorman has to let her up. She stands in the foyer with the dead key in her hand and feels the first cold finger of understanding down her spine.
Emily.
I didn't hear you come in. Oh, good. I can't stay with you anymore.
She calls Raquel. She tells her she's leaving Stephen. Raquel asks, careful if Stephen knows about David. If he does, Raquel says, he might hurt you. Emily asks why. Raquel says the word out loud, money? Emily makes some calls. She finds out in an afternoon what Stephen has spent 2 years hiding. He is broke. He is past broke. He is a debt held together by his wife's last name.
It isn't happening. Those margin calls will come. Your husband will be wiped out.
She goes to Karaman. She tells him everything, the affair, the changed locks, the trust, the sentence Stephen said twice. Karaman listens. When she is finished, he says he has suspected Stephen from the first night, but Stephen has an alibi made of 5 card players and a club security tape. There is one thing, though, that has bothered him. The dead man had no keys on him. Every man carries his keys. Emily asks for the dead man's address from the file.
Must be hard for you.
Meanwhile, David has decided to stop running and start collecting. He recorded the meeting in the studio Stephen's voice, naming the price, naming the job. He calls Stephen and names his own price, $400,000. Pay up or the tape goes to the police. Emily drives to the dead man's apartment. She climbs the stairs. She takes her own house key out of her purse and slides it into his lock. The deadbolt turns. The door opens. She stands in the doorway of a dead stranger's apartment and finally sees the whole shape of it. Her house key opens his door because they share a key cut, or because Stephen gave the wrong key to the wrong man, panicked, and put a stranger's apartment key in her purse, thinking it was hers. Either way, the key in her purse the night of the attack did not belong to her. It belonged to the man who tried to kill her, and only one person could have put it there. Stephen pulls the money for David out of the safe in his office. He turns around and Emily is standing in the doorway. She holds up the key. She asks him, very quietly, why a dead man's house key was in her purse. Stephen does not blink. He has been a closer his entire career and he closes now. He pulls out the envelope he mailed to himself weeks ago, the photographs, the dated postmark, and shows her the file on David. Look who he really is. Look at the women before you. David was blackmailing me, Emily. I paid him to stay away from you. I thought the man on our kitchen floor was him. I planted the key to keep you out of a scandal that would have destroyed you. Emily looks at the photographs of herself on David's pillow. She looks at the rap sheet. Something in her face breaks. The con man she loved is a con man. Of course he is. Stephen steps close. He puts his hands on her shoulders. He says he is going to fix everything. Stephen goes to meet David one last time. He hands over the money in a satchel and tells him to get out of the city. David boards a train at Grand Central with the bag on his lap and a future in another name spread out in front of him. The train pulls out of the tunnel. Stephen slides open the door of David's private cabin and steps inside. By the time the train reaches the next station, David Shaw is dead on the bench seat. Before he goes, David smiles up at Stephen with blood on his teeth. You lost. He has already mailed Emily a copy of the tape. Stephen races back to the penthouse. He asks the doorman if the mail has come up. The doorman says Mrs. Taylor took it already. Stephen takes the elevator with his stomach in his throat. He walks in, and there on the foyer table is the stack of mail, unopened exactly as it came up. He breathes. He finds the package. He locks it in the safe. He hears the shower running. Emily comes out of the bedroom in a robe. Stephen smiles. He kisses her. He takes her wedding ring out of his pocket and slides it back onto her finger. He says they should go out for dinner. He says everything is going to be all right. He goes to take a shower. While the water runs, Emily moves through the apartment quickly and carefully. She checks his briefcase. Nothing. She kneels at the safe. She knows the combination. She has always known the combination. Inside, she finds the satchel of cash and a small padded envelope. She plays the tape. Stephen's voice fills the room. $500,000. One job. She listens to her husband sell her life. When Stephen comes out of the bathroom, Emily is in the kitchen, calm. She says they need to call a locksmith in the morning. Her key still doesn't work. She picks up her coat. She says she'll wait for him in the lobby. She walks out. Stephen stands in the foyer for a moment, and then he understands. If she really believed his story about the key, she wouldn't care about the lock anymore. She is testing him. He goes to the back door. He kneels down by the pipe and reaches under it for the key he hid the night of the murder, the key he has to retrieve now to keep the story alive. He stands up with it in his hand. I knew it. Emily is in the doorway. She never left. She has her phone in one hand and the tape in the other, and she is looking at her husband holding the key under the pipe where no innocent man would ever know to look. Stephen goes still. Then Stephen smiles. That smile that arrives before the eyes and tells her she can't prove anything. He says he has the evidence on David. He has the letter. He has the photographs. He says she will walk out of here looking like the unfaithful wife who killed her husband in cold blood, and he steps toward her. She turns to run. He catches her in the living room. He gets his hands around her throat. They go to the floor. Stephen Taylor is a man who has spent his whole life believing that the woman under him will not fight back. Emily Bradford Taylor reaches above her head for the drawer of the side table. Her fingers find what they are looking for. The gun is in her hand before he sees it. She shoots her husband once, at close range, and the silence afterward is the loudest silence of her life. She sits on the floor for a long time with the phone in her lap. Then she calls Detective Caraman. He arrives with the uniforms behind him. She gives him the tape. She tells him everything. Caraman listens, nods, and tells her quietly in the language they share that she had no choice. It was her life or his. Self-defense. She will not see the inside of a cell.
I knew as